Hey viewers, my name's Kara. I'm your Tuesday host on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about Hinduism and yoga and paganism. The question is, or the topic, is about whether we have noticed any overlap or experienced any overlap, or whether we think that these two things can work well together, either Hinduism and paganism or yoga specifically and paganism. And the questioner also noted that they tend to find a lot of acceptance about this subject from the pagan side or the Neopagan side, but not as much acceptance from the Hinduism side of the overlap and the comparisons and the blending. So, obviously, I am a modern pagan practitioner. I'm a Neopagan. I consider myself a pagan. So that's the side that I'm coming from, and I'm an eclectic practitioner as it is. So I can't speak for the other side, and I actually don't know, I don't think anyone in my personal life, and no one that I know of online who is a Hindu in and of itself, that is their religious background, or that is the tradition that they come from solely and completely, without any modern pagan influence to it. So, if any of you are from that perspective, please share. I cannot speak from that side. So that, of course, is going to affect what I have to say here. So from my point of view, however, I also read a few articles yesterday. I posted them to my Facebook page, QWitch772. I'll try to link to the post that I put up in the description, and then I linked the other two articles that I read in the comments, the first two comments of that post. So I read some articles to try to get an idea of what the Hindu side thinks about this neo-paganism and Hinduism thing. And what I got from it is basically just like any other group. Some people are going to be okay with things like this, and some people are not. And that's just how it is. Because one or two of the articles that I read talked about I forget the name of it, but the worldwide Hinduism organization being involved at pagan pride events. And the one article was talking about a Hindu organization and the UK pagan organization kind of teaming up and recognizing this overlap, and that there are practices and beliefs in Hinduism that modern pagans can get a lot out of, and vice versa, and just kind of embracing the similarities and recognizing the differences. And that article actually listed some similarities and differences, and some of the differences I don't even necessarily agree with for my own personal practice and a few other things that I know about. So I think a lot of the time people might emphasize those differences, not realizing that there is even a little bit more overlap than we thought. But anyway, if I can go back to my personal practice, I do practice yoga. So yoga is pretty much the main way that Hinduism is involved in my personal path. Now if you go to classes, most of them here in the United States, most yoga classes seem to be pretty secular. They're about the movement and the breath, and they do have that kind of underlying, but some of them aren't even necessarily spiritual in nature. Some of them are spiritual, but not specifically Hindu, because they realize people are coming at this from all different religious backgrounds. But so they will talk about, like working on your inner self. They'll talk about balance. They'll talk about setting your intention. And I tend to really like those classes. I have never personally been to a yoga class here in my little small town area of the world, where it was specifically Hindu based. We have listened to some music that is Sanskrit, or that is specifically about Ganesh and things like that. So it depends on the teacher, depends on the class, depends on the day. but I've never gone to a class that was centered around actual connection with the Hindu deities at all. But it just depends where you go, whether it's going to be spiritual in nature or not. Some classes are pretty secular. But then I also attend kirtan at my Unitarian Universalist church, which is a thing that's becoming more popular around here, around the Cleveland area. They do it a lot as well, monthly. And it's call and response chanting. It's a form of bhakti yoga. And so I have my yoga classes that are based on the breath and the movement and taking vinyasa and everything like that. But then there's also this kirtan thing that I do, which is also a form of yoga. It's yoga of devotion. It's singing. It's call and response chanting. It's a little bit more meditative. You can move, or you can sit still, or you can play instruments, or you don't have to, whatever. And that is much more spiritual in nature, and we do learn chants that are for specific deities. We talk about the translations sometimes, but it's also not really about what the translation is. It's about how it makes you feel, and it's about creating the sound and having that moment. So those are the ways that it enters my practice, and I think that's great. I think wherever we can take elements, take isn't even the right word, you know what I mean. Whenever we can incorporate elements of other paths into our own, where that makes us learn more about it and learn about its source culture and learn about what it means to that religion and to that culture, and therefore how it informs our own, I think that's wonderful, because that's an opportunity for education. And you're going to learn about some things that way that will tell you, okay, that's not really going to work for my practice, but you still know about it then, and that's still a good thing. For example, there are a lot of little practices and beliefs within Buddhism that I really like, that I share. But learning more about Buddhism, I know that there are also other little practices and beliefs that I do not share, and that's why I am not a Buddhist. So I may say that there are elements of that in my practice, but I do not identify with it because I don't identify or agree with all of it. So I think these are good things to learn about no matter what. And that, I know, is where we get into the possibility of cultural appropriation, or misappropriation, I should say, because especially living in the United States, everything pretty much came from somewhere else at some point. I won't really get into that whole discussion, but heck, even I came from somewhere else at some point. My ancestry is not from here. So, you know, there's a lot of that. But yeah, so I can't speak from the other angle, as I said. If you know of some websites or some articles that speak more directly to how the Hindu side of things feels about this, about paganism, incorporating pieces of belief other than the articles that I already found, which basically state, yeah, some people are cool with it, some people are probably always going to not be, then please share. That's my video for this week. It's going to be a mobile upload again. I'm going to upload it real quick while I am at work, so I got to head in there now. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.